Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the King Pocket Aces Fantasy Show, brought to you by rotoballer.com and Rotoballer Radio. I'm one of your hosts, Anthony Aniano, and joining me as he does each and every week to discuss sleepers and value plays this week for week 6, my partner, colleague, co-host, and good friend, the king of fantasy sports, Mr. Scott Engel. Scott, how are we doing today?
Oh, wow. I'm all those things to you.
All those things. Every week you become something more. So congratulations.
What I strive for in life.
How are the New York Bodega Cats with you in Real Talk Raf? I always want to know.
Big win over Philadelphia this week. Another high-scoring game. We had the combination of Justin Herbert and Mike Williams.
Ooh.
And also, we had Jonathan Taylor go off on Monday night when we already had the game in hand. With 3-2 now, we have the most points in the league against, but still we're scoring a lot. Tight end was an issue for us, but we were able to pick up Zach Ertz for this week. We're waiting for Logan Thomas to come out. Come back. We play the LA Sidekicks this week. They're 1-4, but we're certainly not going to look past them.
Love the Zach Ertz for Logan Thomas. I did the same exact move in 2 weeks. So I am a big believer in that. And folks, if you want to win big in 2021 with rotoballer.com's NFL Premium Pass, are you ready to dominate your season-long and DFS leagues? Rotoballer's NFL Premium Pass includes rankings, projections, and cheat sheets for all formats. Get exclusive DFS articles, DFS tools, lineup optimizers, and premium Slack chats. Join in on the winning and take 50% off any premium pass. Use the promo code KING or code ACES, depending on who you want to say sent you, and save an additional 10%. Visit rotoballer.com/radio. Sign up today and start rotoballing like a boss. All right, Scott. It's sleeper time. Week 6 is upon us. 4 teams on a bye. Atlanta, the Jets, the 49ers, and the Saints all on a bye. So people are digging deeper into their roster and into the waiver wire to find some players to utilize. So let's start at the quarterback position. Who is your sleeper quarterback?
I'm going to go with Taylor Heineke against Kansas City Chiefs as my value quarterback for this week. Heineke is unafraid to gun the ball. He's been inconsistent, but I like the matchup this week. Anytime you play against the Chiefs, there's going to be a script for a high-scoring game, and the Chiefs have allowed 28 fantasy points per game to opposing quarterbacks. It's the most in the NFL. So especially you have teams on buys, like you mentioned. But if you lost Russell Wilson, Taylor Heineke is somebody that you could plug in for week 6. And by the way, I've seen in some fantasy leagues, I've seen Russell Wilson actually get cut by some teams. If you're considering doing that, that's a mistake. Keep an eye always on your waiver list to see who's dropped, because if Russell Wilson gets cut and you get him back in week 10, pick him up right away.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a surprise to hear that people have moved on from Russell Wilson when he should be healthy at the very least for your fantasy playoffs. Scott, my value play sleeper quarterback, Carson Wentz of the Indianapolis Colts. He looked fantastic the other night. I know the defense let him down late against the Ravens, but Carson Wentz limiting interceptions, only 1 interception all year, 7 touchdowns, 4 out of 5 games now where he's at least 20 fantasy points, and he's going against the Houston Texans, who have allowed 11 total touchdowns to quarterbacks, 7 through the air, 4 on the ground, and an average of 25.2 fantasy points to the quarterback position. Carson Wentz, Michael Pittman looks great. Jonathan Taylor looks great. Give me Carson Wentz this week against the Houston Texans.
Yeah, I like it. He looked good on Monday night. He looked healthy. He was distributing the ball well. This is another guy that you can use on a bye week or as in one quarterback league as a Russell Wilson replacement. I actually have them in my lineup ranks on rotoballer.com, part of our premium pass that you can check out for a special discount. I have Heineke 16 and Wentz 17, but if you talk to me in a few minutes, I may reverse it.
Fair enough. Scott, let's slide over to the running back position. Who's your first sleeper running back for week 6?
I'm going to go back to Washington here again and talk about the game script. Whenever there's the Washington football team's playing from behind or involved in a passing sort of contest, that's when you go towards J.D. McKissic, who's very unpredictable. But the Chiefs are allowing the fifth most receiving yards to running backs. So if you're in a pinch, because there's a lot of running back questions this week, not just with the buys, but injuries, etc. I think you can go with J.D. McKissic maybe as a flex play or as a desperation running back play for some PPR points. These PPR running backs are very unpredictable. They get cut, they get picked up, they get started, they get pulled out of the lineup. You have to know the right situation. This is the right situation for J.D. McKissic. You can never trust guys like McKissic and Naheem Hines and Gio Bernard. But when the game is right, you plug them in, and this game is right if you need running back help.
Yeah, I do like McKissic, a PPR him to death type of running back. Scott, my running back this week, A.J. Dillon against the Chicago Bears. His role has increased each of the last couple of weeks, 16 touches week 4, 12 in week 5. And Packers coaching staff was disappointed they didn't get him the ball more in week 5. Last 2 games, he's had just about 11 fantasy points or more. Okay, faces a Bears defense. That's tough against running backs, only about 20 points per game in a PPR format. But this is a different animal, the Green Bay Packer offense. I think there's enough for Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. I love A.J. Dillon. Scott, he's less than 5,000 on ownersbox.com. I'm using him to go higher price in other places. Give me A.J. Dillon this week as a value running back. Who is your...
My second running back, which you were about to ask me.
Yep.
He's a value. I don't know if people are waiting for the breakout, but they may not still be confident about starting him because he's still sharing carries. But I'm going to go with Javonte Williams against the Raiders. This is popular. This may not be the biggest value play, but still he's not a top 20 running back. So technically he is a value here. The Raiders are allowing the 25th most rushing yards to opposing running backs, and Javonte Williams ripped off a 49-yard run last week against the Pittsburgh Steelers, who were still good against the run. Plus, Pro Football Focus has indicated that he is first in percentage of tackles broken this year. It's just about to happen for Javonte Williams. You want to be on it this weekend.
Yeah, love Javonte Williams. Have him in a bunch of places. And you're right, this is the week I'm hopeful for to get that 18 to 20 point game. Scott, I don't know if my running back is a sleeper or a value play, but he's somebody people gave up on early. I saw a lot of, do I start or sit Myles Gaskin? I had questions on Twitter. I want to cut Myles Gaskin. And then Myles Gaskin erupted last week with that 32-point game. And my point right now is don't walk away from Myles Gaskin now against this Jacksonville Jaguars defense Sunday in London. This being said, this is Trevor Lawrence's coming out party. I expect Jacksonville to win. I expect Lawrence to have a big game. And I expect Miami to be playing from behind, which means PPR points galore, like last week, for Myles Gaskin. The Jacksonville Jaguars have allowed the most touchdowns to running backs on the ground, 8 on the season, 9 total, 1 through the air, 28 points per game to the position. Myles Gaskin has been targeted 26 times, 22 receptions, 10 of them just last week. I expect him to be a receiving target again, as I expect Miami Dolphins to be playing from behind this week as the Jacksonville Jaguars get their first win. Not the week to give up on Myles Gaskin. Keep him in your lineup. He's going to give you a nice 15-point game this week, Scott. Scott, go ahead.
Yeah, Myles Gaskin, big game last week. We got to see him start doing it on the ground to really, hit.
Yes, I agree with that. More on the ground, but in a PPR format, I think he's still a safe play. Don't hit me up on Twitter and say, do I start or sit him? With all these bye weeks, I think you keep him in the game. Scott, who is your first wide receiver at who's a sleeper?
People are starting to forget about Brandon Cooks, but I think he goes back to what he did early in the season against the Colts, who allowed the 4th most fantasy points per game among AFC teams to wide receivers. Davis Mills I'm not comparing to Justin Herbert at all, but he has one thing that Justin Herbert did have last year. He doesn't get rattled easily. He's kind of fearless. He's had some bad games. He's had some good games. Nowhere near as talented as Herbert. But he doesn't play with fear. He doesn't get rattled. He keeps coming at you. And I think it's a good enough matchup where he's going to start to go back to the volume of Brandon Cooks this week.
Like Brandon Cooks, keep him in the lineup. Scott, I'm going Mecole Hardman of the Kansas City Chiefs against the Washington football team. We know that offense is a little nicked up. No Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Tyreek Hill had a knee situation. They think he'll be fine, but nonetheless, it's there. It's lingering. And Mecole Hardman had his best game of the season last year with 12 targets, 9 receptions against a secondary that I think if you and I tried out, we might have a chance of playing cornerback. They give up the most fantasy points in the league to wide receivers at just under 52 points per game. They've given up 10 touchdowns to opposing wide receivers already this year as Washington. This is a great matchup for Patrick Mahomes, Mecole Hardman, and the rest of that Chiefs offense to shake up some of their offensive woes. Get Mecole Hardman in the lineup as a wide receiver 3, flex option. I expect a big game out of him, as well as the rest of that Chiefs offense. Scott, your second wide receiver.
Yeah, and make sure you have a Roto-Bowler app, fantasy football waiver wire, so you get alerts about Tyreek Hill leading up to that game. I'm going to go with Amon-Ra St. Brown. We actually picked him up in one of our leagues on Sunday morning. Led the Lions last week with 7 catches for 65 yards. And anytime a team faces the Bengals, it's always potential for their wide receivers to put up pretty good numbers. He is clearly the best wide receiver target for Jared Goff right now with Terrell Williams out. And Quintez Cephas, who we both liked a lot, now out for the year. I could see him getting a lot of volume this week.
Yeah, I'm using Amon-Ra St. Brown in, 4 or 5 leagues as my third wide receiver or a flex option. Has led the team in targets 2 weeks in a row in Detroit. My second wide receiver, Laviska Shenault of the Jacksonville Jaguars. I mentioned it earlier. This is Trevor Lawrence's breakout this week. I'd be shocked if it wasn't. Okay, Marvin Jones, he's kind of been in lineups all week, all season anyway. Okay, Shenault, 3 out of 5 games with 7 or more targets. The Miami defense has not been able to stop any wide receivers this year, similar to the Washington football team. Miami, 4th most fantasy points to opposing wide receivers at 43.5. They've allowed 7 touchdowns to wide receivers through 5 games. I'm getting Shenault in my lineup. Another opportunity, like Hardman, to be a big play machine this week for the Jacksonville Jaguars, Scott.
Yeah, I can see where you're certainly going with that pick. He only had 1 catch last week, but it went for over 50 yards. Maybe a potential for Marvin Jones to do something. He started hot. He's cooled off recently, too.
Yeah, he has. Scott, who do you have at the tight end position?
I'm going to go with Jared Cook for a value play against Baltimore. People do know about him, but they're not confident of starting him because 1 week is good, 1 week is bad. But Baltimore allows the 3rd most fantasy points per game to tight ends. They're going to be very focused on trying to contain Mike Williams and Keenan Allen, who can bounce back this week. And if you want to go really deep, Herbert goes to both of his tight ends. So there's potential for Jared Cook. And if you want to go super deep, Donald Parham Jr.
Yeah, Parham's had a couple of touchdowns this year. He's been a red zone target. I agree with you. That's a super deep play, 16-team type of league format. Scott, I'm going Mo Alley Cox against the Houston Texans, pairing them up with Mike Carson Wentz. Okay, Houston Texans give up a ton of points to the tight end per game, about 21 in a PPR formats. On average, tight ends average 7 receptions a game against the Houston Texans. Okay, 10 fantasy points or more, 3 straight weeks allowed to a variety of tight ends. Okay, Mo Alley Cox is a red zone favorite of Carson Wentz. I like him this week against the Houston Texans. Scott, as a little bonus to our listeners, okay, wherever they listen to the Roto-Baller podcast or right here on YouTube, who are some other deep sleepers that the King Scott Engel has for this week?
Going to go with a Pittsburgh Steelers hookup. I believe I wouldn't be surprised to see Ben Roethlisberger throw 3 touchdown passes this week. If you're looking for a quarterback replacement, especially if you got to stream him in a 2-quarterback league or a super flex. Pat Freiermuth, the rookie, I expect him to catch a touchdown pass this week. Seahawks will be very focused on trying to contain Chase Claypool and Deontay Johnson. James Washington also has some upside as
Yeah.
a daily play. It could be very unique to run a Steeler stack in DFS this week or stack. Well, what you're going to do is actually that's going to be a showdown game because it's a Sunday night game. So you may want some Roethlisberger, you may want some Freiermuth, you may want some James Washington when you're playing showdown. Deeper leagues, you look at the three of them. Paris Campbell talking about the Colts, 4 catches, 56 yards. They need to open up the downfield passing game in Indianapolis. He's a key. And also Donovan Peoples-Jones. Odell Beckham's not getting it done. Jarvis Landry's not back yet. And, Baker Mayfield's starting to look his way. And every time I say Donovan Peoples-Jones, I think of Borat for some reason. I say to myself, should I start the Donovan Peoples-Jones?
The answer this week in deeper formats is yes. All right, everybody.
Nice.
As always, thanks everybody for watching. Make sure you stay right here on the Rotoballer YouTube channel or wherever you listen to the podcast and check out all the great starts, sit videos and podcasts, waiver wires, whatever you're looking for. Check out all the great content courtesy of Rotoballer, rotoballer.com. Head over to the site now, rotoballer.com. Basketball, hockey, starting up, and tons of football content all there for you. College football content. Check it all out. Promo code KING for Scott. Promo code ACES for me. Either way, you're saving an additional 10%. All right, everybody. Stay smart. Stay safe. Scott and I will see you next time. Have a good one, folks.